And as soon as Meredith comes, and let me know if you can hear me. No, yeah. Meredith. Hold on, who's calling you? Okay.
It's just giving me, I mean, it's just information to report.
We'll email her that. Okay, we're.
Public comments?
No. Can you hear me? Okay, great. I call this meeting to order at 3:02 p.m. on January 23rd, 2023. Roll is taken by a means of sign-in sheet up here. We have several alternate representatives today. There are as follows: Ryan Hulteen for Janine Grodetsky, Chris Cox for Paul Soto, and Catherine Fontenot for Lisa Foltz. Are there any other alternates that I haven't noted? Meredith, did you get that? Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Madam Secretary, do we have a quorum? Okay, we have a quorum. There are several guests today that will present at our meeting. The first three will be presented by the chairs of Faculty Senate Standing Committees. John Hopkins for Courses and Curricula Committee, Kip Matthews for Integrative Learning Core Committee, and Kathleen Williams for Admission Standards and Honors Committee. Later in the meeting, we will feature a presentation by Keli Zinn, who's Executive Deputy Director of Athletics and COO for LSU Athletics. And she will present LSU's contract with Caesars. There are no public comments on agenda items today. The Secretary's draft of the minutes from December 1st, 2022 meeting was distributed via email. Are there any corrections to the minutes as distributed? If there are no corrections, is there a motion to approve the minutes as distributed? All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. Abstentions? Okay, the minutes from December 1st, 2022 Faculty Senate meeting are approved. Dear Senators, I hope you had a wonderful holiday and are well recharged to embark on another semester. Here are some items that I'd like to update you since our last meeting. The first item is zero-based budget and graduate student stipends. Faculty have expressed their appreciation for last month's town hall meeting, although questions still remain regarding the details of the implementation of the new budgeting model and graduate student stipends. I have heard from several of you across campus with questions regarding 9 and 12-month offers, summer pay, and health insurance, and have brought them all to Provost Haggerty's attention. The process is ongoing with both the Stipend Implementation Committee chaired by Jim Spencer, on which I serve, as well as the Provost Advisory Working Group, which submitted its report last Friday. Your voices are important, so please continue being in touch with me and the executive committee with your feedback. We will make sure that faculty are as informed as possible about the next steps in the implementation process. Extreme building temperatures across our campus remain a major problem, with many either too cold or too hot. It is not only the matter of comfort, but it is affecting our productivity and mission of the university. Back in December, several faculty members were told to work from home due to the unbearable extreme temperatures in their buildings. And some STEM faculty had experiments affected by extreme conditions in their labs. During an ensemble rehearsal in December, one of the oboes cracked due to temperatures of the room that were below 55 degrees Fahrenheit. This extreme temperature problem continues to be a norm at LSU, even now in the spring semester. We are working with facility services and academic affairs to improve communications around the source of the problems and anticipated timelines for improvements. As part of this effort, we have invited representatives from facility services to provide answers to these questions and engage with senators on other concerns at our February meeting. We will distribute a little survey that we put together and email it to you after this meeting so you can communicate this with your units. We would appreciate if you can get the feedback back to us so that we can communicate those questions and concerns to the representatives from facility services. So stay tuned for that email. Fall 2022 student evaluations. Due to an overwhelming concern from faculty regarding an extension of the teaching evaluation response period that replaced a 1-hour error with an 18-hour correction into the exams week, I met with David O'Brien in the Office of Testing and Evaluation Services, as well as Provost Hegarty. As you know from the email that was sent on December 22nd at 2022, it was decided that only evaluations submitted prior to the original deadline were released to the faculty as part of the normal report. Any faculty that wishes to get copies of their evaluations beyond that date should contact testing services directly. I'd like to thank you all for raising this issue in a speedy manner, which enabled me to address it quickly on your behalf. So thank you. No, hold on 1 second. So it's captured.
The wording on that announcement, I did not like at all. It said it would be released to faculty. They did not say they would not use those evaluations anyway. It was, we will release, we at faculty may not see them, but they're still in the system. I have a major issue with the way it was said, released to faculty. To me, it should be released to anybody, including administrators, not just faculty.
Thank you for clarifying that. Our understanding was that since they already collected the data, that data will not be shared with anyone but the faculty who wanted to see the data beyond that deadline.
I would like to see that in writing.
Yes, I'll make sure I'll follow up on that and we'll get back to you. And thank you for that comment. PM 11, outside employment disclosure. Several faculty reported to us last semester that there was a serious delay, in one case over a year delay, on outside employment disclosure approval process. We addressed this with academic affairs and believe that everything should now be straightened out. Moving forward, the process should work smoothly and you should get approval in a timely manner. There still are other concerns that we'd like to address regarding PM 11. We are continuing to work with academic affairs to improve it. I'm very happy to report that our new website is up and running. I'd like to deeply thank Sarah Williamson-Richard for her tireless work on making it so beautiful and efficient. The new website is easier to navigate and all pertinent documents are readily accessible. I encourage you to visit it and let us know if there's anything missing or if you'd like to see any improvements on it. My last point is a rather sad one. So our assistant, Sarah Williamson-Richard, has accepted a position at a law firm in New Orleans, and her last day is tomorrow. And she couldn't be here due to a family emergency today. She was meant to be here, by the way. Please join me in wishing Sarah well in her new venture. in the short time that she was here, we had developed a great rapport with her, and it's really, I'm really saddened that we'll have to let her go. But we have already started the process with HR in finding her replacement. I will keep you updated on those developments. Please continue being the eyes and ears for us. It strengthens our advocacy for you, your departments, and colleges. We're always stronger together. Are there any questions?
Jeff Rowland, philosophy. Is this on?
Yeah, just project.
I can't hear it. Okay, so the Provost Advisory Working Group report, will that be made available generally to faculty?
So at my meeting with Provost Hegarty last week, so the question was at the Provost Advisory Committee that is putting together the report that was submitted this past Friday, will it be available publicly? So at my meeting with Provost Hegarty last week, I expressed our concern, just having heard faculty being concerned about what's in that report and how it's going to go. We made a strong case that the report should be made public, just like the implementation committee's report earlier, and it should be posted on Provost's website. So we are, he heard us and we're waiting for a response. So I'll keep you posted about it, but we made a strong case that it should be public, just because it's going to affect our university for many years to come, the decisions that are going to be coming out of it. So thank you for that question. Any other questions? Okay, we'll move on to the next item. So we have 3 presentations by standing committee chairs, and the first up is John Hopkins, Chair of Courses and Curricula Committee. And it take 10 minutes, please come to the podium, and this works. 10 minutes for little presentation and then questions after that. There you go.
Okay, so courses and curricula handle all of the new course proposals when departments determine that they would like to offer new courses. Those courses come through my committee for approval. Also, any courses that want to be deleted or new concentrations or new minors that would like to be proposed. Courses that are cross-listed between departments, all of those kinds of things come through courses and curricula. We work very strongly with the registrar's office. The registrar provides for us staffing. They record the minutes of the meeting and they handle the implementation of all of the new courses and changes that go into the course catalog. We also work with with academic affairs, who approves everything that comes through courses and curricula. So we have quite a strong relationship with all of those entities. I'll give you an example of a couple of course proposals that come through, just to give you a taste for what we experience. And I will preface that by saying that one of the things that makes the committee work so well together is that the members on the committee have been with the commitment. Most of them have been with the committee for a long time. Many of them will, after their initial term is up, they will elect to be on the committee again, which is very useful because that experience of how the various units of the university work together and how things are coordinated across the university is very important. We had one proposal that came through recently from math. This was a change that was imposed on the university by the Board of Regents and the math department, so that we have now for algebra to make the course more successful, the Board of Regents asked us to add a co-rec course, a co-rec section that went with the normal Math 1021 sections. One of the things that made the course somewhat difficult to get through the university is that math wanted to use a 0-0 number for the course. And we don't have any 0-0 numbers that work with the mainframe. It posed problems because not only was it difficult to implement, but it has implications for, does it apply for, can students use it for scholarships and so on. So when we saw this proposal coming through, we tried to head off the problems, knowing how that course number change was going to be communicated across the university. So what we did was, instead of waiting for the proposal to come to our committee and then considering it, we got the academic affairs, the Board of Regents, and math to start talking about in advance, could this number be changed so that we could try to save time for the implementation of the course. It was obvious that the course needed to be approved because it was mandated by the Board of Regents. So yes, we need to approve it, but there's still some things that are necessary to make the course work well. There was some discussion about, so the students are taking the normal 1021 course, and then on top of that, they take this co-rec course, and the idea is to add the on-ramping, the little hand-holding that's necessary for certain students to be more successful. But now the question is, the university requires that there's a final exam or a final project. How do you work that with a co-rec course when we don't really want them to take a final exam? We want them to just use this course as a segue into taking the normal 1021. So there are a lot of details to be worked out, which I think the experience of the committee worked really well to make it all work and come out in the end. I try to run the committee with a little bit of humor and really impress on the members of the committee how valuable their experience is and how valuable their participation is. I constantly try to reward them and get them to participate and offer everything that they can to make good decisions. This committee is a fun committee to be on. Some of the committees I've been on in the past, there's always infighting over little pieces of turf. And this committee really has the strategy, which we continue to tell everybody, is we're only interested in making the best decisions for the university and the students. So when proposals come through our committee, we have a number of people who look at it very carefully for mistakes, because it's prepared by faculty who have wearing many other hats and doing other things. There are often mistakes. We try to find them. And we also look for any problems where the proposal might, let's say, go against university policy. Maybe a professor proposes a course where the course is not in line with PS 22, which describes how absences and accommodations will be made. And we try to look at that very carefully. But one of the things that's important, as I said, is the experience and the willingness of the people on the committee to go above and beyond and offer their experience to find potential problems. So there was a new program that was put forth by a department. I'm not going to mention any names, but the idea was that graduate students were going to take all of these new courses, which were going to, all of these existing courses, to be part of a new program that was being provided. Nobody in the department found any problem with that, and nobody in the college CNC committee found any problem with that. But one of the members of our committee got to thinking about it, because they're really interested in making sure that this is going to work for the students of LSU. And they looked through the course catalog and decided, they figured out that all of the courses that were being proposed for those students to take, they weren't eligible for. So in fact, the whole new minor had to be redesigned so that the students could actually matriculate through the minor by taking courses that they were able to take. So this, I think it's important to realize that it's a really great committee. It works very well together. And I think you should be proud of the way that LSU set up the committee by using every college across the department having a member and having it work well together. And anybody have any questions? Yes.
Is the Board of Regents in the habit of telling LSU what courses to create?
Unfortunately, they are.
Okay,
So as a matter of fact, for the math course, I mean, I'm not here to complain, but for the math course, we already had, we being the math department and their marvelous professors had already worked out a procedure where this co-rec course existed. The course actually, they had a way to do it, a way to teach it. They had already worked out the curriculum, everything was in place. And then the Board of Regents came in and said, well, but you have to do it this way now. Well, that's the Board of, that's the way they work. That's all I can say. Hopefully they have some wisdom and they're making good decisions.
Does the committee work with LSU Online for the courses that are created there? LSU Online, does the committee work?
Yes, they do. So, courses that come through the committee can now be proposed to either be during the normal 15-week sessions of the campus system or the 7-week system of LSU Online. And we work with LSU Online. We've had them come to the committee so that they can say, here's how we see it from our end. So we can start creating ways in which we work together to streamline how their proposals are accepted.
Hi, I'm Adriano Watts. I'm the co-chair.
I think you turned it off. Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
I think I just have to
Yeah,
eat the microphone. So I'm the co-chair of the Courses and Curriculum Committee at the vet school. And I just wanted to ask you, are you aware that we are planning on submitting the year 1 curriculum as a whole for review?
Hold on, I'm not hearing you.
So I'm the co-chair of the Courses and Curriculum Committee at the vet school. I just want to check, has somebody alerted you to the fact that we intend to submit the whole of year 1 for
One of the things we did last year. Member of the committee to be from the vet school. So they just learn how the committee works to help the interface between vet school and community. So I think they're doing it. I'm aware of that structure and the fact that there's time curriculum coming. I think the cost is communicating that there that there's a wholesale division of that.
I think that's it. Well, thank you so much
Yeah.
for being here.
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. Thank you. Okay. Our next presenter is Kip Matthews from Integrative Learning Core Committee, or better known as ILC. And he has a PowerPoint, so I'm gonna just quickly pull it up. Let's see.
So much for presenter view in my notes. Oh, well. So I'm Kip Matthews. I'm the chair of the Integrative Learning Core Committee. So I'm going to tell you today a little bit about what this committee, about Integrative Learning Core and what this committee does. So in the LSU Strategic Plan 2025, the call was made to improve our general education process at the university. And the idea is to make general education more effective, better than what we currently had. The Faculty Senate embarked us on this mission of actually doing this by approving Resolution 1707. That was in late 2017. And what I'm going to tell you about on the next few slides is some of the improvement, some of the changes that we've made to general education as the Integrative Learning Core. So the purpose of the Integrative Learning Core in my own words is basically to take the breadth that's provided by general education and help students to find those connections between the different topics so that they come out with a much broader, better tailored experience in terms of that breadth that they've acquired. So what does this mean? Essentially, I'm going to let the show you what we're telling our students.
To the Integrative Learning Core. Undergraduate students will now find each of their general education courses linked to one of 9 proficiencies, which makes up the Integrative Learning Core. Want to make a difference in communities? Look for courses with the civic engagement proficiency. Or perhaps you'd rather grapple with ethical dilemmas, and a course focused on ethical reasoning. Interested in global learning? Try a study abroad course, or one where you'll engage with complex, interdependent global systems and legacies. In courses with the inquiry and analysis proficiency, you work to systematically explore issues and objects, or work in order to gain a better understanding of them. In courses aligned with quantitative and formal reasoning, you'll benefit from working with numerical data and formal systems in authentic contexts and everyday life. Want to make a difference in the world? Written and oral communication course proficiencies focus on preparing and presenting purposeful products designed to increase knowledge, to foster understanding, or to promote change in an audience. Courses with the intercultural knowledge and competence proficiency will help you foster an awareness of cultural diversity, to be curious and open to various worldview frameworks. And the problem-solving proficiency means you'll be able to learn the process of designing, evaluating, and implementing strategies to answer open-ended questions and achieve goals. In these courses, you'll make connections among ideas and experiences from one course to another. These experiences will lead you to learn new concepts that you'll be able to apply to your future endeavors. The tough part will be deciding which courses to take.
So that's an advertising video that was put together by Office of Academic Affairs. This is available on the Integrative Learning Core webpage to advertise to our students and their parents what we're trying to accomplish with Integrative Learning Core. So those of you that are familiar with the Board of Regents general education requirements, you'll recognize the 6 topics that are listed there on the left. That's what the Board of Regents says, that every student has to take a certain number of hours in each of these different areas. ILC has defined 9 proficiencies. They're listed here. You can find definitions of these proficiencies on the ILC committee webpage. But these 9 proficiencies essentially link to multiple of the Board of Regents areas. For example, if a student wanted to tie together courses in fine arts, humanities, social and behavioral sciences, whatever else, with the intercultural knowledge and competence proficiency, this is going to allow them to help build those networks between these different Board of Regents areas so that they learn a little bit better about the interconnectedness of things and how to be, how to navigate a kind of a bigger world, providing them those tools to do so. The ILC proficiencies also include 5 to 6 dimensions of learning each. These dimensions of learning are what we are using to assess what the student learning is in these courses, so that we can assess the effectiveness of the ILC program. So the FSILC committee itself was developed from the prior Faculty Senate Gen Ed committee. Some of you here in the room may have been on the Gen Ed committee in the past. The FSILC coordinates closely with the Office of Institutional Effectiveness in the Office of Academic Affairs. The FSILC charges in brief are to develop, implement, and communicate ILC procedures, to review initial course proposals and renewals. This is what gets things in the catalog as ILC courses and gets the competencies and proficiencies listed with them. We also develop and review assessment of ILC courses and the ILC program. The actual assessment of ILC occurs through the Office of Institutional Effectiveness. And then the last thing we do is we review student appeals. So if a student wants to transfer a Gen Ed class from another institution, then we review that appeal as to what it's going to fit into in terms of the ILC proficiencies. Our committee membership, I've listed here. Our faculty are generally faculty who are active teaching faculty and have served on courses and curriculum committees, either in their college or at the Faculty Senate level. All of our faculty members on this committee are below the level of department head. So we very much aim for having our active faculty being the ones who are participating in making all of this happen. And you all will notice a couple of names here in terms of representation here on the Faculty Senate itself. I'd like to especially point out Tara Rose and Rachel May. Tara, they are the ones who really make a lot of this happen. I describe Tara as the Radar O'Reilly of this committee. So she's the one that truly makes it all work. So quick snapshot about FSILC activities. At this point, we have 253 ILC courses that have been approved as of fall 2022. These cover all the proficiencies, all the Board of Regents areas, and all the colleges at the university, and they're listed here in this table. As of beginning of fall 2022, we finished the collection of data from the 2021-2022 academic year. That covers 181 courses that were approved at that time, reporting assessment data for 44,320 students. So essentially, most of our students are taking, one or more ILC classes at any given semester. The results for the 2021-2022 assessment are in preparation for the SAC COC self-study that is about to go out from the university. Because that's in preparation, I apologize that I can't inundate you all with pie charts and bar graphs and everything else yet, but those are coming. We also in 2022 had instructor focus groups. This is part of our efforts to find out how is the ILC program working for us as faculty, and how can we actually make it more effective, right? How do we balance that issue of effective assessment data with the amount of time that it takes faculty to actually collect this assessment data? We very much want input from the faculty who are teaching these courses to really tell us how to make this work effectively. And Meredith Feldman here has actually been probably our most vocal person on the committee with how are we going to improve and continuously improve. Looking ahead for academic year 2023-2024, we will have the first round of course renewal proposals. So all ILC courses are on a 5-year cycle. So they put in their initial proposal. 5 years later, they're going to submit a new proposal so that we can have updates, improvements, continuous ongoing process in that sense. So I put a couple of relevant websites up here, including the bottom three are some of the history of the ILC program. On the whole, as John said, with courses and curriculum, there is a lot of work that is involved with this committee. Our faculty members are very dedicated. They are very serious about being on this committee and making this program work. So thank you for your attention. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you so much for your time. Okay, thank you. Our last, but certainly not least, presenter is Kathleen Williams, and she's heading the ASH committee, and she'll say a few words about the committee and its aims. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah. Let me just pull this back.
I don't have a PowerPoint, just a few things to say. So the Admission Standards and Honors Committee, our objectives are on the website, Office of Academic Affairs website. So we are charged with the following responsibilities. We formulate, recommend to the Senate and monitor policies and standards concerning admissions requirements, which a lot of our proposals, I'd say the majority of our proposals have been more geared toward the admissions requirements at LSU. We also conduct continuous studies and we make recommendations to maintain and improve standards of scholarship. So some of the proposals that come to our committee are more geared towards student standards of their scholarship, and then also recognizing student achievement in scholarship and leadership. So just, we meet once a month unless there are no proposals that come our way, where we have a representative from every college on campus, as well as the vet school and the law school. And as far as our ex officio members, just like the other committees, we have Dr. Bach, we have Clay Benton from the registrar's office, we have a representative from athletics, we have someone from admissions, and the honors college. So we have, and UCFY. So we have ex officio, non-voting members, and then voting members. So to highlight basically some of the things we've done this semester, if you want to, that's usually what I present or what we've been doing this past semester. Quite a few of our proposals last semester and the previous year or two have been geared toward GRE requirements. Seems like every meeting, every month, we have another proposal that department wants to discontinue the GRE as an admissions criteria for the graduate program, and they have other more useful admissions criteria they would like to use that would be a better reflection of that student's ability to succeed in veterinary school. So this past semester, we had a proposal from the Master of Science in Athletic Training, the Department of History, and our biggest one we did recently, which I've sent on to Faculty Senate, is a proposal from the graduate school to allow departments to basically make their own decisions instead of every department every time sending yet another proposal. So I was really excited to get that one from the graduate school. We also entertained a proposal from student government to us about the concentrated study period. They asked if this concentrated study period could be changed to include the entire week before finals, not just Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. The students worked with academic affairs to put a really nice proposal together on that and presented it to us very well. And we voted on it, and now I don't know where it stands. We'll talk later about that. As far as some other admissions criteria, we've received proposals from several departments that, you know, from a student coming from UCFY into their program, lowering the GPA requirement from a 3.0 to a 2.7, kind of to reflect or being more in line with the B- when the plus minus system came into being. 3.0 was it, now a 2.7 is a B. So we recently had one of those from the Department of Accounting, and also looking at more specifically with accounting, another one to look at how many of their upper level courses would have to be taken at LSU if they're transferring in. So they wanted to be more specific about that. I'm sure one that's been, I'm not going to discuss the details, just giving you ideas of what we do month to month is the proposal from Manship to change their admissions criteria.
I'm sorry.
How much of that am I supposed to talk about? Just a little bit?
As much as you like.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, basically, this one's came through our committee, but once we review a proposal, it could be one reading for the first time in a month, and then the second reading would be at the following month. If it's a very clear-cut proposal, we can suspend the second reading and go forward and approve it right away. Sometimes they take several months. So we received a proposal from the Manship School of Mass Communication to change some of their admissions criteria, removing the 3-0 prioritization, changing their hours from 30 to 24, and then changing some of the requirements for high achieving high school students. Once our committee votes, we're not the end all be all. It goes up the chain. It goes to the faculty senate, executive committee, and then it goes to academic affairs. So even if we vote on it and approve it, it still has two more rungs in the ladder, so to speak, to get to the top. The College of Agriculture submitted a proposal this past semester to discontinue the directed mission policy. So now students coming into the College of Agriculture will now go to UCFY and have to meet the specific admissions criteria for each department, not just coming straight into ag day one. One more? Yeah, thank you. Oh, yeah. These HIPAA
Project.
filters are kind of,
Yeah, project.
so to repeat that, the College of Agriculture wants to discontinue direct admit
That's better.
rather than having the students come into ag and unfortunately getting kicked out to UCAC. Let's earn their way in, make sure they're ready for the agricultural programs. And that one passed ASH, is moved on to Faculty Senate. And then the most recent one we just had at another one at our January meeting was a proposal from the School of Education to remove the praxis exam score and the minimum ACT score for admission into teacher education programs, because House Bill 546 changed the policy that removed that at the state level. So the education programs wanted to be in line with what the state requirements are and remove that from the catalog, which to us was pretty much a no-brainer, but we still had to discuss and review and vote on that. So those are some of the types of proposals we received. Typically, most of them have been geared more toward admissions criteria. Years past, we received the proposals when the university medal criteria were changed, when the plus-minus grading system came into effect. So we haven't received as many in the last year or two with honors. We've received more to deal with admission standards and things like that. So whatever comes our way, we discuss and vote and then send it up. So I can't give you an exact outline of what we do month to month. So with that, that's my quick little report.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Like, let's. Any questions for Kathy? No, I guess not. Okay. Okay, our next item is new business, and we're gonna hear from Benefits Advisory Committee, which is sponsoring resolution to expand retirement choices for LSU employees. And Roy Heidelberg will read the resolution. I have it here. You can use yours too. If you don't mind, can you scroll down and really like talk into this?
All right, good afternoon, everyone. So this is a resolution that is being sponsored by the Benefits Advisory Committee, on which I serve. I'm going to read it and then answer some questions on it. So the title is Resolution to Expand Retirement Choices for LSU Employees. Whereas new employees to LSU are asked to decide between two retirement options: a defined contribution plan called the Optional Retirement Plan, ORP, and a defined benefit plan through Teachers Retirement System of Louisiana, TRSL. And whereas employees who select the ORP are informed that their decision is irrevocable, And whereas an irrevocable decision to elect into ORP is made with little information about one's long-term status at LSU. And whereas LSU employees are not included in federal Social Security, and whereas employer contributions to ORP have been less than federally mandated Social Security contribution levels for employers on a percentage basis. And whereas LSU employees who select ORP are excluded from participating in an employer's supported defined benefits plan. And whereas many employees who elected into ORP have remained at LSU for a period of time that makes the defined benefit plan a good option. And whereas SB 10 of the 2022 Louisiana legislative session by Senator Jay Morris proposes legislation to offer an ORP participant to transfer to the defined benefit plan on an actuarial basis. And whereas this legislation did not get out of the Senate Finance Committee, therefore be it resolved that the Faculty Senate, in conjunction with the LSU Staff Senate, call on President William F. Tate IV to endorse a similar piece of legislation in the 2023 legislative session to provide the many employees who desire to revoke their election into a defined contribution ORP and participate in the teachers' retirement system of Louisiana.
Okay. So according to Robert's rules, section 4, subsection 11, this resolution does not need a second since it was introduced at a direction of a committee. So any questions? Yes. Please wait for the microphone. Yeah.
Hello, I'm James Canfield from Social Work. Just had a quick question. The potential, it's like unintended consequences. Thinking about the Yale lawsuit regarding retirement plans, and while I know that's about fees and about selection and things like that, would this introduce any sort of fiduciary responsibility to the university or anything else about when switches would be made or things like that?
This would not change any of the existing obligations of the university. This would, though, simply give employees an opportunity to switch from the defined contribution plan into the defined benefit plan. Is that what you're asking?
Well, I mean, is there going to be any, it's just maybe this is beyond the resolution, but is there going to be any fiduciary responsibility upon the university to say, like, you know, we've seen that you've been here for X amount of years. We know you were in the ORP, and with the fees and everything else, you may want to switch. Is that going to fall upon anyone, or does that fall on the individual?
I suppose that would depend on how the legislation was ultimately composed. So I don't know. This is more to call on for an endorsement for this option, but I suppose that would depend upon how it was composed. I don't really have an answer to that. But I don't know if I can. Yeah, but I mean, there is right now a lawsuit between faculty members here at LSU and LSU addressing a little bit of ORP issues and the underfunding because of the way that they have funded TRSL and ORP. I can't speak to the details of that, but there is a pending lawsuit right now about that.
Thank you for presenting this. Fabio Del Piero, School of Veterinary Medicine professor. I understand the goal of this resolution and I see the point. I'm aware of the lawsuits several here have. The only thing I would like to see in this resolution, I would like to see the last little chapter a bit more expanded. So a little bit of forecasting of what is going to be. So which kind of details you would like to request regarding the switching on the other boat, jumping on the other boat. So I would like to see a sort of program to see how the other faculty that belong to other retirement program are going to be impacted by this possible change. So at the beginning of our career here, we all got this opportunity to choose between one system or the other. And obviously the university supported the commitment of certain faculty to a certain pretty much involving retirement program. So it would be nice to see if after therefore be it resolved, there will be an explanation for how you're planning to achieve this. So perhaps a few number, hypothetical number, to see how the whole thing would be impacted. The faculty that are already participating in the teacher retirement program. Which part
I'm
of.
very sorry. I could only catch parts of that. So you said a lot and I apologize. If I understood you, you were asking to expand the therefore
Yeah,
and to include in that a study of the impact.
No, not a study of the impact, it's just a proposal, the numbers, how you're going to be grandfather or grandmother into the program. Are you going to start from scratch, or your years of employment are going to be recognized as much as the year of employment of the members of the other pension plan, retirement plan?
So it include details of
Yeah.
what the implications of switching would be.
So a little bit more, more math, something. So I see.
As in like scenarios of
Yeah,
like if
yeah,
somebody's got 10
exactly,
years,
exactly.
how much would it cost them to buy into TRSL, like to do the
Anything
actuarial work?
Anything that you think appropriate that would clarify this proposal.
Okay.
And sorry, I don't know if it's the microphone or my accent, but.
No, it's not your accent, it's the microphone, because every once in a while I'm hearing nothing and then static and then your voice.
So that would be my point,
Okay.
and good luck.
I think I understood, not sure. Maybe I'll, okay, go ahead.
Luway Mohammed, Civil Engineering. Can you hear me? Yeah, you just got to talk loud and I can do that. Thank you for this important resolution. And it has been on the radar for the past 8 years. There were several legislation that unfortunately did not go through. I think what's relevant, and I hope this is the details in the legislation, is to say that if you are in the ORP, then you accumulated certain amounts. So that would be transferred to the teacher's retirement and so forth. So I think that's what is alluded earlier. But any details, I think that should be part of legislation. It's not part that may change this focus of this resolution. So I strongly endorse this and thank you for doing this. And I think we all should contact these whoever the legislators to make sure that hopefully with the support of the university, it comes out of committee.
Yeah, great. So I think perhaps to Del Piero's point, like we chose not to go into the details of what the legislation would look like. I mean, because of how cumbersome that process would be for us. There is a piece of legislation, it's linked on this document that you can read. The way that Senator Morris, as we understood it, addressed this was to simply say that you would buy in on an actuarial basis into TRSL. So the way that I interpreted that and the rest of the committee interpreted that was some portion or potentially all of your ORP would be required in order for you to buy the years and participate in the defined benefit plan. That would be determined on an actuarial basis, according to the legislation. You want that in this resolution? Oh. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Wailing Song from Finance. Sorry, my voice is not really good. I have cold, so I'm wearing a mask. So did they mention anything about the underfund issue? Because we all know they don't have enough access to cover their obligation. So when they say actual basis, well, the newcomer need to share the underfund problem or not. I think that's something that have to be clear, when people want that decision.
So I think that, Dr. Song, you're saying that there could be a problem where someone has been underfunded for the ORP. They may not have sufficient funds to buy into TRSL. It's both sides of this, right? Yeah, right.
Yeah, there's actually two sides.
Yeah.
You have the ORP, people are underfunded who want to be in this. If they have lots of, return from their investment, there's no need for them to switch.
Yeah.
And the other side is TRSL are serious underfunded right now. So when they, mention this actual basis, does that including the underfunded problem or not?
Right. So the unfunded accrued liability with the TRSL is
Yes.
one side of the problem. The other side of the problem is the
Mhm.
potential underfunding of people in ORP, which speaks to the bigger issue of there are different retirement plans that are offered and the fact that nobody at LSU who's on a full-time basis can even participate in Social Security, right? So all of those problems are kind of in this piece of legislation. If you look at it closely. So we're aware of that. And we think that a big part of this needs to be that we, the senators and other members of the community need to work with Tate and with the person who sponsors this legislation ultimately to make sure that all of those issues are brought to the fore. So a big part of this is just to kind of spark more involvement from everyone and awareness of it. I can't tell you how many people I've spoken to at LSU who didn't even know this piece of legislation had been sponsored until after the session had ended. And so this is a big thing. And I should also say, I've been talking with members of the staff senate or a member of the staff senate about them doing a similar piece of legislation so that this is brought from both sides, both staff and faculty are interested in this.
Yeah, I think that kind of detail is quite important for us to decide if we could, support this resolution or not. Just try to mention that sentence, it's not enough for us.
To support this resolution, you want what added into it?
Like, I need to know when a person decided to, transfer, are they responsible for that original underfunded problem of TRSL?
Well, by participating in TRS, I mean, it's an institutional problem, the unfunded accrued liability. It's not like you become indebted in some way.
Well, what I'm trying to say is, because when they do all this calculation, are they going to use the original obligation as a base, or are they going to use the existing asset they have as a base? There's like a 40% difference in terms of number here.
So are you saying in order to participate in this,
Mhm.
will you be responsible for making up a portion of the unfunded accrued
I
liability?
don't know. That's my
And
question.
you want to make sure that you're not, like, I'm not saying like scenario wise, you're not responsible for that, that you would only be obligated to pay what you would have paid had you started participating when you
Like-
began working at LSU?
For example, both of us start at the same year. You choose, TRSL. I choose, ORP. I have, exactly the same return, like how TRSL manage. Will I get exactly the same numbers like you? Or are they going to calculate in a way they understand they're underfunded, and then they will, use, the existing asset to, calculate all the numbers?
So I don't know the answer to that. I would suspect that because at least the piece of legislation that was originally written was written on an actuarial basis. I believed that to mean that you would buy in based upon what your salary had been for the whatever period of time you had been here. So if, I've been here for 10 years, if I had started with TRSL instead of choosing ORP, then they would have to go back and determine what would my contributions have been going back to those 10 years, not what will I have to pay in order to make my pension a properly funded pension. I mean, I don't even know how they would do that.
It's going to be complicated.
What?
It's going to be a complicated situation, given they are so
Yes.
serious underfunded.
Well, yes, TRSL and mini pensions have a hefty unfunded accrued liability. I don't think that it's going to be the responsibility of people who would who choose to participate in this to actually make up for that unfunded accrued liability. I don't think so.
My question is on inflation. And TRSL, as I understand it, is not really inflation adjusted. Maybe once every 5 years, 1%, 1.5%, according to what I could find on the website. So what that means is that unless the TRSL plan is adjusted for inflation, its real value is dropping in the order of 10% a year. So why anybody would want to switch from ORP into TRSL is beyond me. But I would think that between that issue and the compression of salaries, there should be something in this resolution that addresses those main concerns, because ultimately those determine what resources will be available to a retiree.
Well, I actually think that's outside of the scope of this resolution. Nobody's going to be forced to participate in TRSL as a result of the legislation. The idea is that you get to make this decision again. The same decision you made when you started, you have an opportunity to revoke that decision to participate in ORP. That's all that this is. Now, you're right that there's a compression issue, and then also that pensions aren't often raised in accordance with inflation, but
So I agree that it is a separate issue, but perhaps your committee would consider introducing a separate resolution regarding inflation and the cost of living adjustment for that.
yeah, last year we did sponsor a resolution that was passed here for calling for cost of living adjustments on all salaries. That resolution, to my knowledge, was given to the president, and I don't know where it went from there. But I would encourage everyone to perhaps send an email and say, hey, what happened to that resolution?
Well, specifically, cost of living on the the TRSL, the defined benefit, that is not currently adjusted for inflation. So salary is yet a separate issue, but since you brought up retirement, I think probably the biggest threat to most retirees here, at least those on TRSL, is inflation. And there doesn't appear to be a mechanism to protect them from further inflation or hyperinflation.
Sure, I'd be happy to bring that to the committee, a resolution to address the inflationary pressure on TRSL pensions. Happy to do that.
Okay, so I would like to just flag some infelicities or typos. So in the first whereas, you have teachers with an apostrophe S. In the therefore, you have teachers with S apostrophe. I don't know which of either of those is correct, but you probably want
It's
to.
S apostrophe.
Okay, so we'll
Yeah, I'll
correct
fix
the
that.
one.
Also, plan instead of system in that one as well.
What's that?
Plan instead of system.
Yeah,
optional
okay,
retirement
good.
plan.
That was the second one. No parentheses around ORP in the second whereas.
Yeah.
And also, isn't it not just that we're informed that the decision is irrevocable, it's that the decision is irrevocable, right? It's not the being informed. Let's see. What was that? Apparently federally mandated should not be hyphenated. My colleague Bob informs me. Where's that? Oh, he knows where it is. In the penultimate whereas, proposes legislation to offer an ORP participant to transfer to, it's really offering the ORP participant an opportunity to transfer to, right?
Okay.
And just to make a comment on what Fabio and my colleague from engineering were talking about with, adding more detail, right, about case scenarios and things like that. As I recall, this actually came before FSEC last year, and we were asked, the legislation, right? What do we want to weigh in on this? Do we want to say anything? And as I recall, my inclination looking at the legislation was it lacked any of these kinds of detailed scenarios about what a buy-in would look like. And for that reason, the thing looked like a black box to me. And my input to the conversation was, I don't have any idea whether or not to support this legislation because I don't have any idea what it would actually mean for us. So I agree with you and other folks who have commented that the case scenarios and things like that, the detail, that should be in the legislation, not in this resolution. But it's not currently in the in the legislation, or at least it wasn't last year. And maybe there's a way in your conversations to indicate to President Tate or whoever that, look, if this is going to be useful for us, we need to have this stuff in the legislation. So just a thought.
Okay.
Thank you. It's a follow-up on what Fabio said. Can you hear me? Yes. It's great to have this opportunity for those who didn't join the teacher retirement system of Louisiana at the moment of joining LSU. But one question is, what happens if more than 60% of the faculty who right now are under the ORP decides to move to teacher retirement system, for example? What will happen to the other 40%? Will they still have the opportunity to choose TAF or any other? Like, what could be the consequence for that minority? That's my only question. And it's a follow-up from what Fabio, I think, he said.
So if I understand you correctly, you're asking what would, like, let's say you've got the set of people who are participating in our ORP, 60% of them decide we're going to go
The
participate
majority goes
in
to
CRSL. What happens to the remaining 40%?
minority. Yeah, for example, a minority. What happened with that minority? Like, what could be
Assuming
yeah.
LSU continues to offer the optional retirement plan, they will just continue to participate because that's a defined contribution plan.
Yeah. What
So it
happens?
has no long-term obligations on
Exactly.
LSU whatsoever. The
Okay.
bigger question is what's going to happen to TRSL if suddenly
Everybody
know,
joins.
there are 6,000 people say, all right, let's move over into TRSL. That's going to raise some of the questions that Dr. Song was mentioning about the unfunded accrued liability. It could work out in its favor. It could not. It all kind of depends on who participates in it and what their life expectancy is.
Yeah, but what could happen to the minority that, let's say there is a group that don't join?
Yeah.
What will happen to that minority of the group of people? Because suddenly we can find ourselves in a situation where everybody will be forced to join the teacher retirement system. And that's something that I am kind of thinking, what happens if there is one that doesn't want to go into the teacher retirement system? Exactly.
I don't think anything happens to them, notwithstanding changes in policy at LSU.
Okay.
This legislation nor this resolution wouldn't change anything in that case. You would just remain in ORP if you choose not to make this transfer.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
One more.
Thank you. Jake Esselstyn, Biological Sciences.
Can you speak up, please?
Is that
Yes.
okay? Why do we need to be able to transfer from ORP to TRSL, but not have the opposite direction available?
Well, you do have the opposite direction available. You can always transfer from TRSL into ORP. You just will not get the contributions that were made by the institution. So you'll only be able to transfer over your contributions.
So that's sort of a transfer. It's not a, it's not a real transfer, I guess is what I'm saying.
So it's not a satisfactory transfer for you to make that transfer.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is our first reading of the resolution. At our next meeting, we will hear the second reading. Thank you so much. Okay. Our next presentation is by Keli Zinn. She's the Executive Deputy Director of Athletics and COO for LSU Athletics. And her presentation today will be on LSU's contract with Caesars. Please welcome. And you can move it here. And I'll
Thanks
do
so
it.
much. Good afternoon. Appreciate the opportunity to come by and talk with everyone about our Caesars contract that you may or may not know a little bit about. My name is Keli Zinn, and I'm our Chief Operating Officer. Actually, relatively new to LSU. I'm about 5 months on the job, and with me today, I have our Deputy AD for Revenue Generation, Clay Harris. Clay is even more recent with us, having joined us here within the past month, but is a former LSU student and native of Baton Rouge. So pleased to talk with you all today. What I wanted to be able to do is to provide both an overview of LSU sports properties, which is essentially our marketing and multimedia rights holder. We've had that relationship since 2005, and part of the responsibility of that property is generation of revenue in the form of sponsorship. So similar to what you see with various buckets of revenue coming into the athletics department via TAF, the SEC, TV rights, ticket sales, those types of things. We have expectations for LSU sports properties in order to perform and help with those revenue streams. Clay oversees that property. And so he's going to provide an overview of the Caesars partnership. That one is one that is in the midst of numerous sponsorship opportunities that we have within LSU sports properties, but I know is a focal point here today. Following Clay's overview of the specifics of that agreement, we'll open it up for questions and hopefully address any concerns that you may have.
Thanks, Kelly. How are we doing today? So I want to put together a quick overview of the Caesars deck and at a very high level, show you guys what they're receiving through LSU athletics. And so if you're going to Tiger Stadium or the PMAC or Alex Box Stadium, you'll notice Caesars in a variety of different spots, whether it's on signage pieces, whether it's in program ads, radio. They have use of the LSU mark as well, and our official partner of LSU athletics. One big key piece to their partnership and what they do is they drive a responsibility message behind most of their elements that they utilize with us. Knowing the sensitivities of the category, that was one large caveat we wanted them to have some sort of a responsibility messaging behind whatever they're promoting. So you'll see them throughout our different venues in these various spots. Again, radio, print, and high-level signage throughout the different sports facilities. And more examples of things they do around athletics. They have on-site interactions and activations at our different events, tickets and hospitality, radio, digital on lsusports.net. And again, the majority of these items are accompanied by a responsibility messaging in regards to gambling, different gambling hotlines and things like that given out in conjunction with these different assets. The partnership term runs through 2026. The deal was cut last year, and so you'll see them throughout our different facilities for the next couple of years. We did do some research about this, kind of going into the process with a category of this nature, and just some different high-level things that kind of jumped out to us in regards to the LSU fans across the country. 97% of those are above the age of 21, and then 91% are over the age of 21 that are attending our LSU football games. So there was more high-level data like this as we would look to broker this partnership. They did deals with LSU and Michigan State through Playfly Sports. And again, they'll be around for the next couple of years. And I also have an overlay of our different demographics of fans here at LSU. And in a nutshell, that's kind of what they'll be getting over the next couple of years within their sponsorship. Any questions?
Hello, John King from College of Ag. I'm also on the athletic council. This problem came up a long time ago, even before the Caesars association with LSU, as far as a concern by faculty in regards to gambling and its relationship to a campus and how it could ethically impact us, as far as education goes. And so what I wanted to know is why this was such a secret deal that was made, that even a newspaper can't get the information about the deal that was made. Why didn't it go through the Board of Supervisors for approval? Why was this like a side deal that was done with Caesars without any approval by anybody at the higher up level? And there was no input at all from the university itself on this matter.
Yeah, so let me first address the question of it being secretive. All of the sponsorship agreements through LSU Sports Properties, the terms of those are in fact protected. The spotlight on Caesars and from an external standpoint made it to appear that that was something unique with that agreement, when in reality, if they requested the information for McDonald's, Hancock Whitney, Cox, some of the other non-controversial or less controversial properties and sponsorship agreements, that same reaction would have been the case. And so there was never really the intention, particularly for Caesars, to exclude that one. And instead, that's an overarching agreement with all of the sponsors in order to protect those terms. As it relates to it not going through the Board of Supervisors, I do apologize because that agreement does predate Clay and I. And so admittedly, I was not aware of that. We would need to determine if that was something unique to it. It did, however, go through university approval. So all of our sponsorships, we do that in collaboration with Sports Properties. And there's a labor approval there. We do not have unilateral opportunity in order to enter into any agreement within athletics separate from the institution.
Do you know who in the university approved this deal?
I do not.
Is there a way to find out?
Yes.
Can you send that to us?
Sure.
Thank you.
I have a new appreciation for the person before who spoke because those filters are very difficult to hear. So if you see me come down, it's not just that I want to be closer to you, it's to help.
Thank you for presenting today. I want to piggyback on the excellent comments made by Dr. King. I am concerned about the message this sends out. Edward Shahada, sociology, criminology. 3 million Americans are addicted to gambling and are actually seeking treatment, as far as I understand the numbers. And so that's my number one concern. I appreciate the fact that not you, I'm not like I'm blaming you, that there are resources available to repair the damage that this thing could do. But it seems to me to be sort of counterproductive in the broader sense. It is an extremely addictive behavior. Before I continue with my question, will our young adults under the age of 21 be allowed to gamble?
Well, so let me address separate from that. One of the measures that's taken through the partnership is that we do not target specifically anyone under the age of 21.
Well, I'm just wondering, but the resources are available for them. I mean, the offering is there. Could an 18-year-old walk up and start gambling and engage one of these services?
No, sir.
Okay, so only 21 and over.
Correct.
Okay.
And in addition to that, one of the things that takes place as it relates to any type of promotional specific information that's going through individuals, LSU takes the opportunity to remove those. In full transparency, there was a mistake made to that early on in this process, which is one of the things that I think also contributed to the controversy. That was human error, to be honest with you, something that absolutely should not have happened, and something that has since been taken really seriously to go back to make sure that that error was not repeated.
Yeah. Same thing here. Right. And the second part of my comment is to echo Dr. King's concern about the lack of transparency, not your two specific fault, but I didn't hear about this until literally the last minute. I always consider faculty the true long-term stakeholders of this campus, not administrators, not students. They're very important, but they come and go. And I think that faculty really should have been consulted maybe in a more direct way, instead of last minute to inform us what the deal is, but maybe ask our input. Anyway, that's the thrust of my comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Roy Heidelberg, College of Business. I actually had that question. Is there a faculty committee that consults the work that you all do? I've got 3 questions. That's the first one. Is there a faculty committee that consults the work you all do?
There is not.
Can you just tell me, what is LSU Sports Properties? What are you? How are you institutionally created? Are you a corporation of some kind or a corporate body?
Yeah, so LSU Sports Properties is a subsidiary of Playfly Sports. Playfly Sports is LSU Athletics multimedia rights partner. So essentially, I think 99%, 98% of all D1 schools now have an outsourced multimedia rights department. That's what Playfly is. Playfly calls themselves at LSU Sports Properties. LSU Sports Properties works in conjunction with LSU Athletics Administration and Louisiana State University on all of our deals, all of our marketing efforts. And so it's a Playfly Sports subsidiary that runs the business for LSU.
Are you subject to public disclosure laws?
We are not.
What does university approval look like then for these types of agreements?
Kelly, you have a better understanding of that?
Yeah, so there's a separate gentleman in our office who communicates with the administration as these opportunities arise and are executed, and we can get further information on that. I don't want to misspeak and reference certain individuals that may or may not have a formal responsibility to that.
But the two of you don't know offhand what that process looks like?
I do. I don't want to misspeak on it of all of the formalities that exist there.
Just generally? Can you just give me kind of generally, what does it look like?
Yeah, we have a deputy athletics director within our office who is the liaison to our university senior administration, and he is the one who helps to communicate these deals before they come to final execution.
Thank you.
Hi, Hannah Belaglavitz from College of Music and Dramatic Arts. Could you return to the slide that has the responsibility messaging on it? Yeah, I do not feel like that shows responsible gambling. It shows that if you gamble with Caesars, you are a good person because you know your limits, and it endorses engaging in a very addictive behavior. It does not show in any way that it is addictive. It doesn't show that it could hurt families, students, lives. I don't think that's responsible.
And so thank you for those comments. That is just one little piece of it. We didn't provide everything that's out there relative to the responsible messaging, but we certainly appreciate that and we'll be more sensitive to that in the future.
If we stay on this slide, this is a meaningless slide. You've not defined who Caesars are. Caesars know their limit. Yeah, the company knows their limit. What does that mean? Know their limits. How do you expect somebody who doesn't have a fully developed frontal cortex to know their limits? This is what you're dealing with at the university. You say people above 21 can only go online. We know there's studies and studies and studies that show that's not true. The email that you said was a human mistake. There was not an email and a series of emails going out to students and everything saying, whoa, here are the lines. This is a bad thing. With studies, here are links to studies. Here are people that have lost their lives because of gambling. Here's a link to them. It was not weighed at all correctly. Number two, you've not explained the relationship between you and LSU. When I go out there, I represent LSU. People are upset about this in the public. As far as I know, LSU had nothing to do with this. It's the sporting side. And I think you need to make that extremely clear. You have the right to use the LSU symbol, but you're not, as far as I know, connected directly to the university any longer. You're a separate, isolated legal entity. Is that correct?
Playfly is a separate entity, but it is housed within athletics and is authorized to use the university marks. But I do appreciate your comments.
This comes back to another thing. We're not sure any longer as faculty the relationship between LSU and the athletics department as well. You say athletics, athletics, athletics. I want you to start saying about the university itself, not athletics, which is maybe another shell company. Not using that, but this is sort of where we're seeing things.
Hi, I'm Ken Lapata. I'm from Department of Chemistry. I have a question about the funding that LSU gets. So am I correct in hearing, I believe I read it in New York Times, although you could correct the details, that you guys get money for how much they gamble? You basically emailed a promo code and essentially students get and there's some sort of funding per engagement, say, not per dollar spent. So it's not just advertising dollars, is that correct?
No, there's no funding back to LSU as
None?
an incentive for people to gamble more.
And so there was is it Michigan that had that? One of them had it. Maybe.
Michigan State is also a partner, and
Yeah.
there's nothing in Michigan State's deal either that would.
So no one does that, is that correct? And
No.
that's never going to happen?
No.
So the email that was sent out was just to the students, the one that went to the ones that were under 21. That was just, look, here's gambling. There's no link for a discount code that was tracked.
To my knowledge, there was not, but that was before my time.
Okay.
Jeff Rowland, philosophy. So you said that this is up for renewal in 2026. So I would like you to, when you start thinking about that process, to maybe read some of what has been coming out over the past year about the mental health crisis among undergraduates at universities all over the country. Some caused by COVID and, the ramifications of that and all kinds of other things. But this to me seems like just the perfect compounding factor, right, to really, really worsen an existing mental health crisis. I just don't see how this kind of operation has any place on a university campus at all. So in 2026, when you guys start talking about doing this again, you might think about not doing it again.
Appreciate that.
Hello, I'm James from Social Work. I had a question. What sort of additional data is also either being offered or collected by Caesars in addition to just emails? I know that there's not going to be FERPA stuff necessarily, like grades and things like that, but I'm also concerned about any other data sorry. What other data, or is there any other data that Caesars is also privy and collected to? Now, while I know they're not going to collect FERPA grades, stuff like that, I'm just concerned about unknowingly participating in additional marketing sort of collection, because obviously they have emails. Are they going to be able to track folks like that? Are they going to be able to market more towards certain sorts of majors, certain sorts of things, which impacts kind of our livelihood in that sense?
No, sir, that information would not be shared or sought by Caesars, and instead the information that they send out is an opt-in for those individuals who choose to then enter into that information from Caesars, and they of course would be obtaining that based upon the sign up.
Just a couple things. If you're advertising at games, you're advertising to students at all ages. And you're advertising to high school students and whoever goes to the games. Secondly, what is the primary advantage to having this relationship with Caesars or LSU and or the athletics department?
So with a partnership like this, they become one of our most high level givers to LSU athletics. So that's a big part of this. They're contributing a good bit of funds to this, and they're one of probably 130 other corporate partners that we have. But it's a financial gain.
So I'm glad to hear that there's a large financial gain for LSU athletics in this deal. I'd like to know, how does that financial gain contribute to the core mission of research, teaching, and service of the university?
We keep saying LSU athletics, but this is LSU. So,
Well, you did say LSU athletics. You said they're one of the primary givers to LSU athletics.
Yeah.
So I'd like to know what the benefit of that is to the LSU's mission of research, teaching, and service.
Sure. I would say while none of that money is earmarked directly to the institution, LSU athletics, the athletics department as a whole obviously sees itself as someone is part of the broader mission of LSU specifically. And we hope as part of that, we support all those ventures that are part of the umbrella within the university via our student athletes, our staff, our coaches, the contributions that we make to it. And while again, this is obviously something that has been controversial, and this information has been helpful to us today and will continue to be helpful moving forward as we evaluate these opportunities, we do not want it to deter from the broader mission of the institution, of which we very much respect and like to be a part of.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. That concludes the business for today. Is there a motion to adjourn? Okay, so all those in favor say aye. Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.